Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Nikki and today I want to share with you a very cool recipe using black cacao. Maybe you're already familiar with it, and if not, then stick around and we can talk about it. So I'll be making black cacao with white chocolate chips. So that's going to be a delicious combination. So what exactly is black cacao? Essentially, black cacao is one step further than Dutch processed cacao. So you have your raw cacao powder, which is a very acidic ingredient. And then if you process it a little bit, that's what it's called, Dutch processed. Then you're removing some of that acidity. Now, black cacao is taking it one step further and increasing that pH. So it's really heavily alkalized, which makes it very mild. It doesn't taste a lot like the chocolate flavor that you have in mind. It tastes more like those very famous cookies that come in this sort of sandwich shape, which is a very characteristic flavor, and you 100% will get that from smelling this ingredient alone. So back to the recipe here. So we're starting with a very classic and generic way of making any chocolate chip cookie, which is having butter and sugar. I'm creaming my butter, which is at room temperature, with some granulated sugar and some light brown sugar. Now I'm mixing those two types of sugar because I want a crispy cookie, but also I want it to be slightly on the chewier side. And the light brown sugar will help you achieve that. So the usual creaming method, we beat those two together until they're nicely incorporated, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of vanilla extract and one egg, which is at room temperature, just to ensure that it incorporates nicely and it doesn't look like it's a broken batter. So that being done, I have my combined dry ingredients here that I'm just gonna sieve through, because it is cacao powder in the end, and it tends to clump up. And it's always good practice to sort of do this unless the recipe really is trying to avoid creating more air, but this ensures that all ingredients are incorporated evenly. And I like to do this in stages to avoid getting that cacao all over my counter. So I'm starting with a little bit at a time. And as you start mixing it in, it turns into this grayish paste. But the more you mix the black cacao into the main batter, the darker it will start to become. And this is not a huge amount of black cacao, but it's enough to get that beautiful Halloween sort of black color. And look at that. That's the basically the cookie dough here. I'm stopping. There's a little bit of flour visible, but I don't want to overmix this. So that's ready. It should be slightly tacky to the touch, but that's basically the cookie dough that we are looking at. And I hope you can see the vibrant color in the video, because in real life it's really quite striking. Kind of the perfect Halloween cookie, if you ask me. So I'm going for a black and white theme here, although white chocolate is not perfectly white. No, just kidding. So I like the flavor of white chocolate combined with this black cacao. There's something about it that just goes so well together. In theory, you can use any type of chocolate that you might want, but this is kind of a classic to me. So I want rough chunks of chocolate because as they bake in the oven, I want to be able to see those bits of white chocolate in there. And I'm using couverture chocolate, which means it might melt slightly in the oven. and it sort of disappears a little bit with respect to the chocolate chips, which are kind of designed to not melt as much. So just bear that in mind. You can obviously use chocolate chips, and then you will be able to see the chunks a little bit better. So this is gonna go in the oven, and when they come out, they're actually holding their shape rather well, but I wanted to show you my go-to cookie technique, which is quite known at this point through social media. You just take a cookie cutter. This is kind of a tart ring actually in terms of size, and I just swish it around, trying to get all around the cookie edges, and that shapes it to a very nice and round cookie. And look at that bottom crust. I love to check the bottoms to see how it bakes and sort of the overall texture. And you can see a little bit of that white chocolate that is beginning to caramelize. So that's the finished product. And yeah, this is pretty much done. A couple of notes on the cookies. So this cacao tends to dry up any sort of batter, so this has been balanced out in my recipe so that you can get a nice and chewy texture. So very close, well, as close as possible to a regular chocolate chip cookie. And it's delicious, and it's not super gooey in the center, but it's still quite moist, as you can see here. That's it for me. I hope you liked this recipe here as much as I do, and maybe you learned something about black cacao. And if you do try the recipe, do let me know how you like the cookies. I'd love to hear from you. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time with another recipe.